Well, Ron, there's one politician in Louisiana these days who's taking things in stride. After nearly 8 years on center stage, Governor Edwin Edwards is no longer in the spotlight. While Governor-elect Dave Treen is busy making decisions about his administration, Governor Edwards had time last week to sit back, relax, and reflect on his 2 terms as governor. Governor, this is an end of a decade, and there have been an awful lot of retrospective looks and a lot of sort of soul-searching at this time. Has this been a particularly poignant new year for you? Have you done a lot of looking back on your career?
Oh, yes. Naturally, we are spending our last holiday season in the mansion and my last holiday season as governor, and we are looking forward to the transition and the change that will come upon us, my whole family, as a result of leaving public life, at least for a while.
Is it sort of hard to do it, you were saying, in stages or piecemeal? Would it be better just to say, one day I'm governor, the next day
yes,
I'm not?
Unfortunately, time and circumstances will not allow that, but it would be much better for everyone if instead we could all assume our new roles rather than going through the stage change that we have to go through.
When you were looking back, well, there were a lot of shows looking back at the major events of the 70s. Have you sat down and looked back and thought of some of the key times in your administration? Because for most of us, the 70s are synonymous with you being governor of the state. What are some of the high points if you look back?
Well, naturally, the adoption of the new Constitution was a high point in government from a pure governmental concern. That, in my mind, stands out as the single governmental achievement of the 80s for the state of Louisiana. But I think there are certain other things that need to be looked at also, and that is the change in the taxing practices which we brought about during the 70s have substantially lowered the individuals' income and sales taxes in Louisiana, while at the same time increasing state revenue from oil and gas without citizens in the state having to bear the burden. And that has made it possible for us to provide the services of government that we've been able to provide without a heavy tax burden on the people in the state. The one regret that I have as an American citizen and as a public figure is that the national government, going back to 1972 and 73 and 74, did not early and completely accept proposals which I was making about what we should do about the impending energy crisis. Much of it, as you know, after being rebuffed for years, has now finally become law, has become implemented, is in the process of being done, but even that very late, and still much needs to be done. And we have gone through that unfortunate period of increased dependence on foreign crude, which I had suggested was going to happen if we didn't take some steps in the country. I really regret that this nation has gone through the inflation and the spiraling of cost and the unemployment which has been brought about by our increased dependence on foreign crude.
Are there any things that when you look back, you would say to yourself, I wish I had done this one differently? Any instances, say, or when you intervened in the teacher strike in New Orleans, are there a couple of things that would you look back on and in hindsight say, I wish I had done it a different way?
Oh, certainly. All of us who are realistic and reasonable would look back on our lives and find times, places, and events which we would have handled differently, given the foresight that we now have in hindsight. But, you know, I don't know of anything that I really feel that strongly about. I wish that I had never involved myself with some people because the consequences were unfortunate and regrettable, both for them and for me. And I wish sometimes that I'd been a little more patient with some people, naturally, on an individual basis. But in retrospect, I really don't know of any major decisions that I would have changed.
So they're personal things more. You wish you'd not been involved with Clyde Vadreen,
sure.
I guess you're
Had I realized the type of individual that he was, I would have been more careful in my dealings with him. But, you know, no one can go through life and deal with thousands of people as a governor does without running into some who will be less than he thinks him to be or will fail to be disappointed in some people. And I'm sure that many people who've dealt with me have been disappointed in me. I didn't turn out to be the person they thought I should be or actually was. And it's just part of the price of living.
Does that carry over to Tung Sung Park, perhaps?
Oh no, my relationship with Tung Sung Park is something that I would not change one iota. I got involved with him for the purpose of stimulating rice sales, which was important to my district when I was in Congress and important to this state. I continued it on that basis. I would not change a thing that I ever said to him or ever did with him.
Let's look ahead a little bit into the 80s. How long a grace period is Dave Treen going to get? Are you going to be sort of the loyal opposition, the government in exile?
No, that is not my role. I'm going to be as supportive as he will allow me to be, and as supportive as the public wishes me to be, and as supportive as circumstances require. No one knows at this moment what kind of governor he will be, what programs he will implement, what direction his administration will take. And certainly we all owe it to him, at least a period of adjustment and fairness so that he can do his job. And I'm going to do everything I can to not only do that myself, but to get other people to give him the support which I think an incoming governor deserves and needs in order to prove himself and to do his job.
Do you think he has a difficult time? You talked, he didn't exactly have an overwhelming mandate, really, nor did you when you came into office. It was a very slim margin. But in his case, you leave as a very popular governor with some of the appointments to major boards made by you carrying over into his administration. Is it going to be a key thing for him to see if he can exert himself, change the laws, perhaps? Is that a...
I don't know whether he will follow that procedure. My advice to him, if he were to ask for it, is to try to recognize that the people that have been left on board under the existing law are all capable, conscientious people who do a job. He will find that they will be just as loyal to him as they were to me, and that loyalty always has a dividing line, and that is with the public interest. And I think that if he decides to just leave them alone and meet with them and counsel with them, he will benefit much from their experience and expertise. And I think he will also find that they will hold out a hand of friendship and loyalty, which will be helpful in his administration. On the other hand, if he chooses to follow another course of action, I'm certain that he can get equally qualified people out of the Republican Party or out of the defected Democrats who supported him, who would be willing to pick up the responsibility for those positions. What course of action he will follow, I do not know. I spent most of Monday afternoon with him. He was, Tuesday afternoon. He was my guest at the Sugar Bowl, and we chatted casually and politically and on business matters. But one thing I want to make it very clear, as I made it clear to him in person, everything that I know about government, all the records, all the documents, all the facts are available to him. We gladly make that available to him. I will answer any questions he wishes, give him any information he wants, but I will make no effort at all to try to impose upon him or to give him direction. He has to decide that for himself.
Did you make it clear to him, though, that you're still very serious about 1983?
Oh, yes. I mean, I don't think he has any reservations or delusions about that, and he and I are both practical enough to know, while I don't speak for him, I'm sure he realizes, as I must know and as the public must know, that if his term as governor is successful and 3 years from now he is popular and has succeeded in handling the state's business on a businesslike and good basis and has achieved a large measure of public acceptance, I'm not going to run. He will have no problems with me. On the other hand, if things go bad for him, then I don't think I, as an individual, will be his problem. Circumstances over which he'll have no control would be his problem. And whether or not I run or not, under those conditions, he probably wouldn't get elected anyhow. So we're all here just sitting, waiting to see what will happen. He's going to do everything he can to be a good governor, and I think has the tools and the experience and the qualifications and certainly the dedication to be a good governor. But unfortunately, a lot of times in this business, we are not completely in control of our own destinies.
So, Governor, you have 4 years now, so a lot of options open to you. One of the ones you were considering was being a favorite son candidate for the presidency.
I have passed that consideration completely. I do not intend to involve myself in any capacity in the presidential elections.
You're not going to support anyone or any other candidate, any Democratic candidate?
It is not my intention at this time to get involved at all in the presidential primaries or in the election. I suppose that I will be asked from time to time, and, you know, depending upon the personalities and programs which emerge, I may change my position and have to say something later on. But at this moment, I know of no reason why I should, or what benefit it would be to me or to the public or to the media.
Why have you changed your mind about becoming involved in the presidential race?
I just viewed that as being an impossible dream. And I view the possibility of being elected governor 3 times and the first person in our history to be elected 3 times as very real and very possible. And I just made a firm decision that I would channel my energies and programs in that direction. And whether you believe it or not, I'm absolutely convinced that the 2 goals are absolutely at odds with each other. If I were to depart from a course of action, which I feel is channeled in the direction of a 3rd term as governor, to seek the presidency or the vice presidency, I think I would lose any hope or chance of running in 1983. And I don't want to give that up.
I would think you gave the seconding speech for Jerry Brown, who does not run very high in Louisiana, I suppose. Right. And that would probably
like I say, every
you.
time that I went to Miami in 1972, when I got there, McGovern had the convention all locked up. I went in 1976. When I got there, Carter had the convention all locked up. I hate to say this, but party politics is controlled by people, by ideologies, by programs which are not in Louisiana's best interest. The majority of the people in this state do not subscribe to the general national Democratic Party politics, nor to the groups of people that actually run the hierarchy on a national level. And so there's just nothing to be gained by fooling with them.
You have to have some sort of forum, don't you, though, for 4 years to keep yourself in the public eye, because you can be very popular at one point, and does the public have a short memory? Will it be difficult to stay in the public eye for 4 years?
The public certainly has a short memory, as all of us have short memories, but what to do about it is, again, one of those things that none of us can control. Dave Treen, more than anybody else, will be in control of the public's consciousness for the next 3 years. He, more than any of us, will determine whether the public will forget or remember, and they will either forget by favorable comparison or by unfavorable comparison.
Do you see yourself being asked, though, to be a spokesman for oil and gas, for energy concerns, because it is in this area that you've got an awful lot of national attention? Well, haven't you been sort of a spokesman for the energy producers?
A number of firms and people interested in that have already talked to me about that as a possibility, and I'm certain to some extent I will be involved in that, because I feel, and I think whether I'm entitled to the accolades or not, most people who are in government or in the business who know something about it recognize that to the extent that it's possible to appreciate the problems of this country from a standpoint of legal, political, and actual engineering practices, that I have as good a grasp of the overall problem as anyone. That isn't to say I know all the answers, that I'm the end response to all the problems, but nevertheless, I feel that I have something to offer in that regard. They do too, and I'm certain in one capacity or the other I will be much involved in that endeavor.
Are you going to miss the perks of office?
Certainly.
You like them, don't
Certainly,
you?
I like to believe that from a standpoint of personality and temperament, education and training, I'm as well fitted for the job of governor as anybody I know. And it's not to say I'm the only one, but it's a peculiar type of job which requires a particular kind of individual. I could not be a brain surgeon. I don't have the patience to knit or to work crossword puzzles. But I believe that I have the personality and the temperament to fit the role as governor. Even if people don't like my policies or the way I handle things, I think that the personality fits the office. Again, I'm not the only personality that fits the office, but it's one of the things that I feel comfortable in, and I've learned to accept the undeserved criticism and the undeserved praise that I've received as governor, and I've had both. At the same time, I believe that I have enough of a feeling for the desires and needs of this state and the kind of government we have to use that knowledge to be a good government.
Have you found that people in Louisiana like a politician, like a governor with a pizzazz, a little flair, a sense of a quip, and that you can turn away criticism with talking about personality traits, that people like this in their politics, that they don't like bland.
The reaction that I get is that they like that in me because it's a natural part of my personality. Whether they would like it in another governor would depend upon his own personality. I'm not going to mention any names, but I can think of some of the people who were running for governor, in my opinion, would just not have been able to carry it off that way. But they would probably been able to carry it off in a manner that would have been totally foreign to me, and I would not have been able to do it the way they would do it. It's a matter of the personality of the individual, and I think each one has to be his own man, and I think the key to it is hypocrisy. I think the public abhors hypocrisy. They dislike hypocrites. They dislike and have grown tired of public figures who appear to be what they are not. And I think the one thing that they admire and expect at the least out of public figures is honesty.
Sometimes I've heard it say there's a confusion between candor and honesty.
Yes, there are some people, the more cynical in the press, for instance, and I can name one of your close friends, confuse the two and take the position that candor is nothing more than veiled dishonesty. And, there are people who feel that way about it, and that might be true in isolated, specific instances, but it couldn't last for 8 years.
Governor, do you think that Dave Treen has some surprises in store for him?
Sure, just like I had surprises in store for me.
What is a few of the big surprises that?
Well, the biggest surprise he's going to run across is the number of people whom he thought were totally dedicated, honest, people interested in nothing but good government, who all of a sudden are going to be interested in jobs, contracts, and special favors. And that's going to happen to him. It happens to all of us. And the thing to do is to try to avoid confusing our desire to be nice to people who are nice to us with the public interest. If you can keep the public interest best served and first served, then if friends and supporters benefit while the public is being benefited, that's acceptable. But anytime you submerge the public interest to favor, and I'm not suggesting he will do that, quite the contrary, individuals or groups, then you begin to get in trouble.